Let it never be said that I am above apologizing for when I get things wrong. And today is one of those extremely rare occasions where I am gonna have to change my opinion on something. But hey, I always reserve the right to change my opinion. I also reserve the right to change my opinion now, again, because here's the thing, I was wrong about Wuthering Waves 2.1, I know. And you might be thinking, Connor, what are you talking about? Well, you dingus, I dropped a video recently talking about Wuthering Waves 2.1. And I dropped this video pretty soon after I'd cleared most of the kind of main content, or what I thought was most of the main content in the game. I had gone through the latest story patch, I had done a lot of the open world exploration, I had done some of the latest events and activities, with one exception. I had not done the event, The Old Man and the Sea, and I gotta say, it was a bit of a mistake to jump right to reviewing the patch before I had included that. Now look, I gave myself permission to review the game without having completed that patch, and I did say in doing that hey, this is my opinion, only having done up to everything up to Old Man and the Sea. And now I've gone through, I have cleared this event, and I'm ready to kind of give my final ruling. At the time, I gave 2.1 a 6.5 out of 10. I felt like I didn't feel like the story patch was it didn't deliver as much as I had hoped that it was going to give, and I felt like some of the latest new endgame modes and activities with the Fantasies of a Thousand Gateways, with the Whimpering Wastes, were a little bit incomplete and definitely needed some revisions, which is why I rated the game how I did. However, Old Man in the Sea is a massive addition to the game that actually has, I would say, core story elements to it, in that it kind of resolves some of the cliffhanger endings of the original story that we got in 2.0, mostly pertaining to Cetus, the giant narwhal whale that so many PGR fans like to freak out over. We finally get to see more of a conclusion to that story and what happens with Cetus. Small spoilers there. Now, before you doubt my ability to comment on this portion of the game, I have gone through and basically 100%ed everything in the limited rewards, with one exception. I haven't done 5 premium requests, and that's because I basically did all of this in one sitting because I was having so much fun while playing it. I heard this game is very much inspired on a game called Dredge, and I've seen some of the gameplay for Dredge, and I must say, I'm interested in trying Dredge now because I had a lot of fun doing this. This game mode is cozy, it's comfy, just getting to kind of sail around in the gondola, do the different fishing mini games, and continue to do those challenges. I just found myself kind of sucked into the loop where I think the first time doing this, I just sat there for 6 hours straight, kind of binging through. I played a little bit more today to get the final finishing touches on it, and that's why, of course, I can't get this final mission here. As far as the Chanty bounty goes, I have not done, 5 types of fish kings, and I've only gotten 6 out of 10 gold trophies on the index, but whatever, I don't care. I've basically 100%ed this game mode. And in addition to that, because I didn't want anybody being able to criticize, I also 100%ed the island as well. Riccioli's island, 100%. Did the whole thing. I've officially 100%ed Renacida up until this point, and it's been hella fun. I want to go through and break down some of the core elements of this gameplay though, and talk about everything that I felt really hit the mark. Now, I loved this story mode because we got to do a little bit more of exploration into the world of Renacida, learning about kind of the conflicts between those who are a little more faithful to the sea and are kind of the original grounding and foundations of the Renacidan culture that before was kind of influenced by the Order, and getting to kind of explore that part of the world is exciting, especially in the context of a character like Phoebe, somebody who's part of the Order. And again, we're seeing more of her kind of coming into conflict with her belief system and what she's experiencing in the world. And I love that we're kind of slowly seeing this continued development of how she feels about things that are going on within the world and how she's respecting the other people and cultures within it. I think 100% the foundations that we're building here, what we got in the first part of the story of 2.1, the little bits we got in 2.0, and with the more expansion we got into this part of the Old Man of the Sea, I think we're going to see that come to full fruition either in 2.2, maybe 2.3, where we're going to see, I'm calling it here, she's going to stand up to the Order, and there's going to be some really big twists that are going to come about as a result of it. And I'm really excited for it. It's really cool to see that they're doing the groundwork of character development within this game, that it's going to have a nice payoff down the road. And look, I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. The overall story mode for it, honestly, it's a fairly like self-contained, like slightly predictable story story mode as we're kind of going through it, and I'm not going to necessarily spoil every single plot point of it if you haven't completed it yourself, because I want you to have a good opportunity to just like see it all unfold. And while I don't think there's anything necessarily like insanely innovative or groundbreaking within the story, I still found myself enjoying it. The best way I can describe this game mode is cozy, and the story very much falls in line with that as well. The only thing in terms of like kind of technical gripes I had about the story was some of the transitions between the cinematics and some of the sound mixing within the cinematics. There were certain sequences where the sound effects in the animations were really not matching the visuals that we were seeing on screen, and so as a result really lacked kind of the punch that you would expect from some of the transitions. In addition to that too, some of the animated pieces that they included into it are so quick and there's no real transition to them that all of a sudden they kind of just start playing and then end almost just as fast. Like some of them are like 5 to 10 seconds.
What's next?
In a way, it feels a little bit more jarring. I like that they're trying to include more polished elements to it. They want this game mode to feel as valuable as kind of like the core story to the game too. This isn't just a side piece that's been tacked onto the game. This is part of the world. This is something that they want you to play through. So I see the effort they're trying to put in there, but it still falls a little bit short on some of the execution, at least from a technical standpoint. I will say some of the special animations they included for some of the NPC characters and some of the interactions that they have, and of course the whole subplot with the fish and the guy who's in love with the fish, I did chuckle a little bit to myself, and some of the extra elements that are put in there overall. But again, it definitely is not its smoothest execution of some of those pieces, but it also wasn't negative, I guess you could say. It kind of ended up being like a net neutral for me, as opposed to being a massive swing one way or the other. I do hope that Kuro continues to try and find elements like that into more of these game modes, into more of their story modes, get some more of those animated cinematics doing it, because I do think that is an element that is making the game stand out from its competitors in terms of the open world RPG aspect of this. They just need to work a little bit on some of the technical mechanics on the execution for it. As far as the technical mechanics on how the whole kind of gameplay loop works, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that they had kind of various different dock shops as you progressed that gave you resources, that gave you the passive abilities that improved your overall grind. I like that it wasn't simply just upgrading the ship. That is what was improving in the game. You also had the passives both from Rover and from Phoebe that gave you different benefits in doing so. Most of these passives, I will say, are basically available within the dock shops as you're progressing. However, there are 2 of them for Phoebe that are part of specific side quests that you have to do to be able to unlock them. And I do like that it wasn't simply just buying all of the pieces to unlock that, and there was other elements to it. However, I do have to say, probably my biggest gripe about this patch was one of the blue side quests that you needed to do to get the final fragment of mysterious scripture is so long, and it's multiple stages, and it's not something you can get through quickly. Like, you have to go out and fish 2 different kinds of fish without knowing exactly what they are. It's pretty easy to tell, but you have to go and get them, bring them back, give her the fish, the girl goes crazy even more, and then you have to do it again, and you do it like literally 5 or 6 times, and the amount of time it takes for the benefit that you get from it is just like, the juice was not worth the squeeze, especially when I had basically completed most of the elements in the game mode up until that point anyway. I was just trying to 100% it, and so it definitely was making me feel a lot less invested at that point. That was probably the only thing that I was like, all right, we could do without this one, please. Please don't do that one anymore. But overall, the gameplay components for this are done well. It's a tight progression system. It didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. It felt like everything was fairly achievable from getting into the game. The only part that really took like a lot of excess grinding was definitely going from about fame 10 or so to 12. You kind of finish through all of the additional challenges that the game gives you, whether it be through the priority challenges or the story mode challenges at that point. And once you kind of get through those, it is a lot of grinding to get all the way up to 12. And I'm gonna be honest, I pushed through all the way to Fame 12 because it seemed like that's where kind of the epilogue ending for the story was going to be. And actually going through that grind and getting to that point getting to the epilogue ending ended up being exactly what I thought it was going to be in the ending. And it was like very short. It's like, I kid you not, it's a 2-minute conversation and there's no real revelations. So I'm just going to put it this way. If you feel like you understand what's happening with the story and you're on, Fame 11 and you feel like you've gotten what you've gotten out of this game mode, I'm going to be honest, you don't really need to hit 12. I think as long as you are getting all of the game's resources in terms of the, new limited weapon that's available, getting the projection on Ocean's Gift and the last little bit of asterite you get from it, you really don't need to be grinding it out more than that. Like, I'm serious, it was like an extra hour at least of grinding, I feel like, to finally get up to Fame 12 in addition to everything, maybe even 2 hours, and I was good. I was good at that rate. I did get all the awnings too. I just want to put it out there. I forgot when I was mentioning earlier about 100%ing everything. I did get all the awnings as well. Like, we legitimately got pretty much everything in this game. It's pretty crazy as of this point. So where does that leave us? So all those things taken into consideration, where do I leave the end of 2.1? The Old Man in the Sea? Does this change my rating overall for this patch? Yes, it does. As I alluded to at the beginning of the video, I did say it does change my perception of this patch. I think this is definitely a pretty substantial amount of content that's been added in addition to it. I sprinted through it. So I'm going to be left with a little bit of nothing over the next little while to do, but it definitely still bumped it at least a 0.5 for me. I ended off on a 7.5 before. I ended off with a 6.5 before, and I would definitely bump it up to just a nice even 7 with the inclusion of the Old Man in the Sea. It didn't do enough to completely like change my overall perspective or how it would impact my perception of Whimpering Wastes or Fantasies of the Thousand Gateways or my first experience of the story in 2.1, but it definitely added more to it that I would definitely bump it up to a 7 overall. I will say as a side note too, because we're talking about just 2.1 in general, Apex Laguna, I kind of wish it had a little bit more to it, where there was more of an emphasis on co-op in terms of like with your friends, like more of like a matchmaking with your friends instead of just like, jumping in with randoms doing it and then the co-op gets disbanded. It's a little bit jarring in some of the transitions between the various stages. I've been working on that. We got some silvers and a gold mixed in there too, so it's fine, but look, not worth overly harboring. Got, 2 more courses left for that one and we'll see, but yeah, definitely didn't really change much. It's just some extra asterite for you that's available. I'll probably do one more update video on 2.1 after we switch over to Brant. We get his character quest added into the game. Kind of see if that changes or adds a little bit more for me going into 2.1. If maybe we can add another half point or so, or who knows, maybe it bumps me all the way up to 10. It's not going to bump me up to 10. Don't get your hopes up. But I will be interested to see what we can kind of get from that when he becomes available. But that's going to be it for this one, everybody. Like I said, I'm allowed to change my mind. And you know what? Sometimes I'm wrong. And it's not a 6.5, it's actually a 7. But that's going to be it for this one, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.